What's going on, people? Welcome to the Morning View on United View, Friday, 22nd of December, day before match day. We've got a lot going on, so much going on at Man United. We're looking forward to the game tomorrow as well. Some might not be, some may be very nervous. Very difficult game against West Ham tomorrow. And loads of news to get through this morning. What we're going to be talking about this morning, Ineos, there's been some big reports that we have not written, by the way, which I will get into because I'm a little bit irked this morning. I'm going to tell you why. But there has been reports talking about the type of controls that Jim Ratcliffe is demanding, what that's going to look like, transfer budgets, etc., even down to the capacity of Old Trafford increasing. Talking about recruitment as well, because Laurie Whitwell's done a really long, in-depth piece about the recruitment and what's actually happened. Transfer chaos as well. Talk a little bit about Guirassy as well. There was a little bit coming out from Christian Falk regarding him and the latest Manchester United news. But I have to start the show because you know me. I want everybody to be part of the community. I will always speak my mind, and I'm always open to, like, if someone criticizes or they don't understand what's going on, let's talk about it. Don't shut people down and act like you're better than them and say get back in your box and cuss people. Explain. So big up to Loki this morning. I don't know if you're still in the chat. Big up Loki, and big up Quasi as well, and big up Mexico, who's actually a member of the channel as well. So big up to you, Mexico. And I just think they've just got it wrong, or maybe frustrated with obviously what's going on with the news. So Loki said, more clickbait and bullshit from Flex and Owen, that clown Owen. Well, actually, that's just rude. So that you shouldn't really say that. That is just rude. Yeah. Honestly, they're starting to reach Goldbridge levels of clickbait. Man hasn't even started office and he is in full control. I'm beginning to actually hate this channel for F's sake. So what I would say, and Quasi said they've been doing it for a while, etc. All we ever do, and this is just my pledge to you guys to tell you what it is versus what it isn't. All I will ever do on this channel, and we will ever do on this channel, is report what the news is. I'm not going to make up articles that haven't happened. I'm not going to make up journalists that don't exist. We're not going to make up stories that haven't been perpetuated by the wider media. And we're not going to come onto the channel live and say everything that journalist said is true and everything that journalist said is happening. All we can do is look at the big stories that are happening, come back to you guys and discuss it as a community. Not me tell you how it's going to go. Not Owen tell you, now shut up because that's the news, so don't have an opinion. Just talk about it. Like the same way if you saw this on your Twitter account and you sent it to one of your other people in your WhatsApp messages and said, have you seen this? What do you reckon? So Jim Ratcliffe wants all this kind of control already. Like, what do you reckon about this? That's all. We're just an extension of that. That's what we are as a fan community. So when there are headlines that you might not like, when there are reports and stories that have been written that you don't like, you should probably take it up either with Ofcom so you can go and complain to them, or there's probably like journalistic sort of mechanisms in place where you can write into the Mail and say, I've seen this piece that your journalists are writing. I hate it. Go to the source is what I'm saying. So yeah, big up to everyone. Want you to get involved. But this misconception of like, I don't know what other fan channels do. They're different. I can only speak on us. Yeah. But we're just on looking at what the news is. We get the news and then we discuss it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. It's a bit of a, I mentioned this before. There is a sort of strange sort of phenomenon that I think exists now whereby, like I said, and to pull the curtain back even a bit further, there are certain times when we put the show together or whatever, and we see stories and we go, nah, I don't know about that, or 100%. you can't say that. Wouldn't want to say that. Like, wouldn't want to for instance, this is a great example. It's transfer season. It's January transfer season, and so many times you see something online from some new upcoming journalist or some new outlet, and it says Man United are going to sign X, this player, and you could easily put that in the title or put it on a thumbnail. 20 million signing or whatever. But deep down, you're like, Probably that's a reach. That's a reach. If it's from a a fairly reputable source, for instance, this news from this morning, Sir Jim Ratcliffe from the Times, and they're talking about the power structure, Old Trafford, this committee that actually might not actually really be a committee. It's worth talking about, isn't it? And if they're saying someone's getting full control, then then you're gonna talk about it and say Ratcliffe getting full control. So yeah, I can say for us, I can't speak for you, Flex, but we always have big conversations on like what we feel is right and appropriate, to put on in titles and thumbnails, because you don't want to be like that.
Don't want to mislead. You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to gaslight.
Exactly.
100%. That's our responsibility as well.
And ultimately, if it offends you that much, you don't have to watch. It's up to you. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't recommend.
Or if it's a morning where you don't like that news, you'd rather not see it today. No problem.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't get to do that. Me and Owen don't get to go.
I'd recommend avoid social media though, because it's gonna be on there.
Yeah, because it's gonna
as well.
Yeah, and that too. You can
the TV
come off. Yeah, and you can literally again, social media. Like if you're having problems with it or you struck, like you can always just come off of it, and I promise you'll be okay. Like you will. But like me and Owen, we can't say we're doing a morning show reporting the latest news Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. and then on Friday when we get to the end of the week, go, don't really like that article. Nah. We'll leave it this morning.
We're going to talk about it.
We're just not, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Certain things need, again, as you've seen on this channel, other things need to be handled with utmost care and sensitivity, and do deserve to basically not be discussed in a public forum. As you've well seen, the way we sort of discuss different things versus the way we discuss other things. But come on, guys, let's not be silly. So yeah, having said all that, smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and although you're going to upset maybe a couple in the chat, Owen, the news is the news. And what is it
exactly then? So when it comes to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, there was a big piece written by Matt Dickinson from the Times yesterday, believe it if you want to, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe reportedly, the deal to purchase 25% of Manchester United was in final negotiations yesterday evening. The Ineos team and Glazer family are understood to have been working all week to try and complete the paperwork in order to start the process of approvals, even if it's concluded on Friday, which, to be honest, you would have heard some rumblings, to be honest with you, if it was going to be concluded today, but you never know. It will be into the weeks of the new year before Sir Jim Ratcliffe's stake in Manchester United can be fully ratified by the Premier League and other regulators. Now, the complications of how to split authority between the sporting side and commercial business are thought to be among the reasons why talks have taken so long, with staff battling to tie up countless details and legalities. But this is probably the biggest aspect of all of this. This is what we're really talking about this morning. There had been suggestions of a three-man board or three-man committee. I think it was the Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, one of them had reported about that previously, saying that it was going to consist of Jim Ratcliffe, Joel Glazer, and Sir Dave Brailsford on the footballing side, giving Ineos a casting vote. However, Matt Dickinson from the Times is reporting the final settlement is likely to give Ratcliffe full say on any major footballing decisions, such as transfers and the future of managers, i.e. Erik ten Hag. Reportedly, once this is all ratified and completed, I don't even know if there's going to be that footballing committee. Either way, Ratcliffe is going to have the final say. That's what at least the Times are reporting. Now, an announcement reportedly will offer clarity on how a new Manchester United board will be split and confirm that Ratcliffe is willing to put around £245 million into upgrading Carrington and Old Trafford. The long-term plan is to expand the stadium capacity from 74,000 to 90,000. Now, when I sent that to you late last night, Flex, and they said, this is the long-term plan for 74,000 to 90,000, I went, well, to be honest with you, it's going to cost a smidge more than £245 million. If you're going to do it, if you can do it at Carrington as well. I mean, those sort of special planners did come in and sort of say, well, that could maybe sort of help out one of the stands a little bit. But I don't know about, we're talking an upgrade of 16,000 there. And an extension of 16,000 there. How that would even work, I still think they're trying to figure that out. But certainly significant news, if it's true, saying that Ratcliffe would have the final say. It's promising stuff. I suppose it is still a case of, we're waiting now, aren't we? That's part of the problem.
We are waiting, and we still don't know. And we said, didn't we, like when we was talking about all the things about Sir Jim coming in and what it's going to look like, we were basically basing it off our own opinion that we presume he's going to have the control, and we presume, he's going to get the voting rights, etc., etc. Even though it didn't quite make sense, if we're being honest, like, because we were still like 25% of this big, massive company, but you get to make all the decisions. When you see that little bit of breakdown by the Times, was it? The Times? When you see that bit of breakdown by the Times, you kind of get a bit more of an insight into it. Again, I will stress, clearly, obviously, it still hasn't happened yet. So we don't know for a fact. But again, in true Carve settings, like, the noises that we are hearing is that it's leaning that way. From most reputable sources are leaning towards full sporting control. Even as if you really don't want to believe us, people as big as Romano saying, matter of time before Jean-Claude Blanc. And, there was also more reports today. I don't know if it was from the Telegraph. I can't remember. About Dan Ashworth, about how difficult it would be to get him out of Newcastle and what that would look like in terms of sort of the compensation package. But Man United really want him. Big sources that are sort of talking about what this will look like. So it is, I would say, that's a positive news story to read. I feel that, they are going to have the say so, because we were wondering how, and what if they don't? What if the Glazers still are in control of everything? Not much is going to change, because then what is the gym going to buy into just be an advisor, and then they just still say yes or no? The whole point is that somebody who wants to create a system and a process at board level and recruitment level and sporting direction level is going to be listened to and able to carry out the decisions. What you don't want is Sir Jim basically going to the guys saying, I think we should do this, this, and this, and they just go, nah, we're okay, So that's an issue. And also, what I'd say is, we don't want Sir Jim to just come and just do everything by himself. We want him to, almost like the Marvel Avengers, assemble the team. Is that right, Owen? Like, get them all together. We could be the super team.
Yeah.
I know you kind of did that little, look down your nose at me thing, because it's Marvel and that. But I think I've used that.
Well,
correctly,
I'm always sort of weary about where you're going to go.
But that was all right, isn't it? Like, Avengers assemble.
Avengers assemble, bring the team together.
Bring it together for the greater of good, and get the right. Iron Man is the leader of it.
Well, I mean, there isn't really a leader. You could argue in the sort of films they're sort of overseen by S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury.
Is that the black guy? Is that Samuel L.?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah,
interesting thing. Do you know with Nick Fury, by the way, originally, like in the comics, he didn't look like that. And eventually, and I think it's in the Ultimate universe, they just started to draw him like Samuel L. Jackson. So when they was coming to do the films, they went, let's just get Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, I'm behind that. Could have got Lawrence Fishburne as well. Black man, bald head, same kind of thing.
But they were drawing him specifically like Samuel L. Jackson. They said, draw Samuel L. Jackson.
They just went, okay. So they went, imagine if he'd have said, no, I'm not doing it.
He'd
probably have to get Idris.
He'd do anything. He did Snakes on the Plane, Fleck. He did anything.
Yeah, awful film. But yeah, what was I saying? But yeah, you don't even want Sir Jim to be the guy who's gonna do everything, and you want him to get the right people and be allowed to get the right people. And then when them right people get here, they need to have power and influence. They can't just get here to be advisors like a Ralph, and then they go, thanks, but no thanks. Like, we're investing into these people, trying to get Dan Ashworth out, trying to get Paul Mitchell, or trying to get Jean-Claude Blanc, all these top people. Get them in and let them do their job.
Yeah, I mean, and also it must be stressed, it's still not the most important thing. The most important thing is this is great, and this is going to probably help us on the pitch and just operate better and operate more efficiently. But the biggest and most important thing is how you're going to get the current majority owners out, and can you get the current majority owners out? Is that factored into the deal? And I've said time and time again, I'm willing for all of this delay, and I understand that, every time we, come on and there's an Ineos video or there's an Ineos article and they say it's coming soon and the final details are being done, you roll your eyes. You do, and I feel it. I feel it, because then also you count forward the couple of months it's going to take to ratify it as well. So you go, well, even if it was today, it's still like late January, early February before we get any, before they even get the keys, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, like it is. What are you doing, Flex?
I'm trying to get to the middle, but I keep doing it the wrong way. A little bit more now. Sorry, because I don't know if it's OCD. I just need to be in the middle of the thing. And that's not Flecknology. That's just turning the thing to be. It's not. Like Lux Hill says there, it's Fleck adjustments. That's all it is. That's all it is, mate.
It's just
It's
I
not
can just like
technology.
I can see like then you go.
Because I can't
Yeah,
see that bit until we actually go live. That's why. Well,
I
usually I
know,
ask you, and I didn't ask you
I
this
know.
time. To be fair,
Yeah,
I was too angry at the comment. People started rubbish.
I forgot what I was saying anyway, Flex. But yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying with the delays and stuff like that. I get it. Like this whole thing's been going on for over a year. God, what I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just like a one-horse race this whole time and it had taken so long. But think of the saga involved in here. We've had sort of, contenders, we've had side stories, we've had subplots, we've had minority investors come in and disappear. We've had it's a giant farce, isn't it? I mean, let's not get it lost at all. It is a joke. The whole thing is a massive joke. You get random signs appear out of nowhere. Welcome to Manchester. They then get defaced as well with all of this sort of stuff, and it's madness. And you do want it just to be over, and you do want it just to be like, all right, it's done. Let's have a look at what this is really going to look like now. Let's actually, let's have the CEO come in. Let's have the sporting directors come in. Let's have Jim Ratcliffe do an interview or release a statement or something. Let's have something. And it is very tedious, but I mean, even though people don't want to really hear it, I suppose it is in the very final stages. Like you can tell. I mean, Richard Arnold's leaving. He's left.
Yeah,
company's house settings. He's removed. Patrick Stewart's in there on the interim basis and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully, come the new year. I mean, it's basically got to be today, or otherwise it's not until the new year. And I don't think it's going to be today or anything like that, to be honest with you, Fleck. So
no, I think yeah,
unless
New Year.
unless people saw that article last night as like a primer for it to be today, but I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right. I think we'll have to wait a little longer into the new year. And it's like what we always said, and that I do agree with people of like, oh come on, bloody hell again. And we've said that many times on this channel. Even when there's been news of not quite now, but in the new year, we literally skip over it quite quickly, don't we? Owen? Because we're like, listen, like, cool, just tell us when it's done. But I think these batches of reports were stronger than that because they were stating the intent of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. They were stating also the structure of what that board's going to look like. Was it one Glazer and then what was that bit
Well,
again?
again, it's about this sort of football committee, and
Yeah.
again, the words that were used were sort of a bit interchangeable when they were saying about this 3-man board, but I think they were referencing this 3-man committee that had been reported on previously that was going to consist of Jim Ratcliffe, Joel Glazer, Sir Dave Brailsford. But they're sort of saying now, well, Matt Dickinson certainly is, from the Times is saying that might not actually be the case. It might just be more of a kind of we let Joel Glazer know what we're doing, but we're going to do it anyway, regardless. I still just worry, and this is my worry about all of that. Even if Jim Ratcliffe has full control, and it doesn't matter. You can go back to the Glazers and go, well, I'm doing this. It doesn't matter. I've got control. When I purchased 25% of the club, I got this right. I still do worry about like the politics involved in that, at that level, because football's weird like that. Like as much as we love just nuts and bolts, what's on the pitch, scoring goals, winning football matches, transfers, etc. At that really high ownership executive level, it's sort of like beyond that. It gets into these weird sort of succession power plays and jockeying for position and trying to grab, a certain amount of power and control and influence. And the Glazers are very thin-skinned people, and they've got the fragilest of fragile egos. And you do worry about, the first time that Ineos or Sir Jim kind of flexes their weight a little bit, if you will, and overrules, shall we say, the Glazers on the footballing point of view. Like, what's the reaction going to be to that? Like, not that it might really matter, but it could. Maybe when it comes later on to sort of negotiating for more shares and more ownership of the club. I don't know. That is still my worry with this, is that as much as we're looking for a conclusion for it all, in terms of, right, everyone get people in the roles, like there may be like a really sort of a nasty sequel, on the horizon sort of thing. And I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for that, to be honest, Flex.
No. And if that happens, we will be in a bad place. We
Yeah.
will be in a bad place. But no, listen, I welcome that type of news. Whether it's exactly how it's been portrayed, we have to wait and see. But I see it as a good thing that those are the sorts of things that are potentially going to happen. Kevin Mitchell, latest member of United View Members Club, big up to you. We're at just over 1,000 people watching. Just under 150 likes. We can do better. We can get to 200 as a base rate and go from there, guys. So please hit a like, smash a like on the video. Aminor Rashid said, Flex, we hear about Qatar in the background. BS, question mark. I'll be honest, Aminor, I haven't heard anything about
Well, if you got,
unless
hey,
I'm
Flex,
missing.
those accounts, I know people say they don't exist. They do. Yeah, they do. They're still going. And the worst thing is, yeah,
I've never
like,
seen them. I don't know why I don't see them.
and the worst thing is that, and maybe this is the problem, I guess, with social media misinformation, right? But like, whenever there is a legitimate, like, there's a delay. There's always been a delay to this whole thing. Like, their case or feels like from their point of view gets stronger and stronger. See, we told you that it wasn't happening because there's another delay. And I'm genuinely fascinated that the day the announcement does come, what they will do. My only assumption is they will still go as fake. You know what I mean? Because that's just the answer to everything.
Why are you going live saying that? Well, talking about Man United's statement that said Jim Ratcliffe's here and he's going to make footballing decisions. This club, this channel.
Well, they wouldn't like, one of their things. They go, well, the 9-2 Foundation is still listed on Company's House as an active company. This is evidence. Or this is a good one. They go, oh, they've said in the Qatari media. They've said, someone went on Qatari news today and said this, that, and the other. There's no quotes. There's no footage. It's just the mysterious Qatari media. It's happening on there. You go like, people go like, what? It's well worth a read in terms of like, it's fascinating. I mean, it is. It's incredible. It's incredible.
It is weird. Right, let's move on. Have I got all of the? Oh, last one. Avi says, this is not a community, it's a family. I love that, Avi. It's a family. Big up. It is a family. A community that's a big family as well. Right, let's move on. Owen. What we got next?
Well, this is quite interesting. And it's quite a lot to sort of break down. So there's a special report. Whenever you see this from the Athletic special report, it's going to be a long read. And there's lots of different things to break down when it comes to this. Laurie Whitwell has written a fantastic article, it must be said. Big up to Laurie Whitwell. Talking about the Manchester United football operation. It's titled Inside the Manchester United Football Operation, Ineos stands to inherit. And basically, what he's sort of saying is Ineos stands to inherit a shambles. He points
Oh, really?
out... Yeah. Clickbait this. But basically, he goes through what's really happened behind the scenes in terms of Manchester United recruitment for really the last 18 months, certainly since Erik ten Hag has been in his role as the Manchester United manager. And it goes in depth about not this past summer, but the summer before, the first summer transfer window under Erik ten Hag, and the scouting database, the pursuit of Frankie de Jong, the, John Murto, his role and how he's worked with Erik ten Hag and the pursuits of the likes of Lisandro Martinez. I mentioned Frankie de Jong, Christian Eriksen, Terrell Malacia, how last summer we basically sort of screwed ourselves by overspending and money not being available, the panic, the purchase of Casemiro, and how that had knock-on effects. Honestly, it's a wild article. I mean, where do you want me to start, to be honest with you? Let's start off when it comes to the pursuit of Casemiro. Maybe we'll go with Casemiro because this is quite a sort of top-line thing from it as well. So this is what Laurie Whitwell says. The decision to go for Casemiro, a different profile of midfielder to de Jong, was taken despite some internal resistance. It was calculated that signing Declan Rice from West Ham United for £120 million, as an example, would have been better for United's long-term financial fair play prospects than bringing in Casemiro, then age 30, for half the fee. Rice's salary would have been significantly smaller than Casemiro's earnings of around £350,000 a week, and he could have signed a longer contract owing to his age, meaning the cost could have been amortized or spread out in the accounts over a longer period. Rice, then age 23, had potential resale value. The Casemiro deal from Real Madrid is one of Sir Jim Ratcliffe questioned during his tour of Carrington in March, and the British billionaire put the finishing touches on his 25% investment in United. And they then basically go on to later say, and this is here we go. This is the one I was looking for. The Casemiro deal, worth £60 million plus £10 million in add-ons, ended United hopes of a move for Harry Kane this summer because England's striker wages would have been too great to work into FFP regulations. Kane was Ten Hag's top top choice as centre forward, but United never considered a genuine approach. Now, I think that's very harsh on Casemiro. It's your fault
It's
we
not his,
didn't
yeah,
sign Harry
exactly.
Kane. I don't know about that. But there's some other top line things that they talk in there as well. The signing of Anthony and saying, like we all know, it was purely because of panic. In fact, this is another quote. Under the management of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, United scouts had made reports that left staff valuing Anthony at around £25 million. Midway through the summer of 2022, United cut off talks with Ajax and privately communicated they would not pay more than £60 million. But in the final days of the window, with desperation around Old Trafford heightened and Ten Hag pressing for reinforcements, United agreed a fee of £86 million. Ajax chief executive Edwin van der Sar later told The Athletic he had challenged Arnold and Murto to, quote, go as far as possible at a time when the Dutch club had already sold several first-team players.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
So basically,
Pathetic.
under Ollie, they went, this guy's worth £25 million. They had talks and they said, we are not willing to go further than £60 million. We're cutting off talks. How much did you buy him for? £86 million. And this is a recurring theme throughout the whole article as well.
Yeah.
Talking about this past summer and talking about how we had players valued at a certain amount. For instance, Mason Mount was valued at £40 million internally. How much did we end up paying? 55 plus £5 million. Atalanta reportedly had told Rasmus Højlund he could leave for £50 million. United communicated they would draw the line at £60 million. How much did we sign him for in the end? £72 million. Talking about going after Andre Onana, spending £47 million on him a year after he left Ajax on a free. And essentially saying that because of all of this, it's been internally communicated that in January, we have basically room for just 2 loan signings. That is, according to internal communications, what we can actually afford to do this January. So like we've sort of said quite a lot here on a lot of these shows, that I think if you're hoping that or expecting some, not even big money, let's just, if you're expecting like a sort of, as KG would say, a light 15 million or 20 million on a certain player, like that's just not going to happen. It's going to be like last year. And they talk about this in the article too. The Wout Weghorst signing was because of the hole left by Ronaldo's exit. Yeah, we did replace Cristiano Ronaldo with Wout Weghorst on loan in January. That was a thing. And also Christian Eriksen got injured, and so we had to go for Marcel Sabitzer. But even the stories behind those signings is labeled in this article. Again, it's a really deep dive. And they talk about how initially, when Ronaldo left, Erik ten Hag wanted Cody Gakpo, and it became very apparent very quickly we can't afford Cody Gakpo. We're getting Weghorst on loan for like 2.5 million. When it came to Christian Eriksen's injury, who was the first target? It wasn't Marcel Sabitzer. It was Ryan Gravenberch from Bayern at the time. They said we can't do a loan, so it ended up being Sabitzer. So this is where I talk about a lot, Flex, about January, and this is where I think we need to sort of mentally prepare ourselves as fans, because there will be names that will come up. There will be names that will be linked to us, and we'll go, get him. Yes, get him. This would be perfect to all of our woes. And then we don't get him because we can't afford him and we were never going to go in for him. Then we get angry. We are getting probably a couple of loans. It'll be like last year over again.
Yeah, and we said that. We said that. And again, when I was at the club a couple of weeks ago for Bayern and speaking to some of the guys in there, they said the same thing. Again, the bit about if a huge offer comes in for certain players, obviously with FFP they have to look at it. I was told that, but they're not actively trying to offload players because of what we spoke about yesterday of trying to backfill those players and spend more money. It's not a situation that we can enter into right now. It just really isn't. Regardless of the Sir Jim Ratcliffe thing, even if we were stable, we've mismanaged money so badly that a club the size of Man United, like everybody's governed by FFP, but we're like by the balls by it. Like we can't, do you know what I mean? Like we can't move. There's no wriggle room in January because we don't have the facilities, the resources to do it, or the money to do it. Another thing I was just, as you were sort of relaying a lot there, I was kind of scanning through it as well. And what's really bad is when, Laurie Whitwell says this, which again we know, but it's just so alarming. He says, but ultimately the system falters because at crucial moments, United can decide to pay over the odds for a player and break their budget. Sources insist there is nobody at the club skilled at assessing a player's worth who also has authority on spending and can take a holistic view of squad building. And that's that bit there, that little paragraph there is exactly where this whole thing of what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's trying to do needs to go correctly. The bit where it says there's nobody that is skilled at assessing the player's worth who also has sign off, who also has power. So that needs to be the Paul Mitchell, then going to the Jean-Claude Blanc as the sporting director or whatever it is to go, right, this player's worth. Like they said, under Ollie, they went and scouted Anthony and said he's 25 million.
Yeah.
So how have they gone and done that? He said he's 25 million. Ollie gets sacked. And then it says midway through the summer of 2022, United cut off talks with Ajax and privately communicated they wouldn't pay more than 60. But you said he's worth 25.
I guess you're right. So even that initial bit, you go, we know he's probably worth 25. We get it. We're Man United. We're a bigger club. We might have to pay a bit over the odds. Okay, so 40. You know what I mean? Or some, but your line in the sand 60, and you still cross your line in the sand. Now, and even this is when it goes into John Murtough and his sort of suitability for the role as well. There was a report the other day, wasn't there, about John Murtough going to Saudi Arabia, coming back empty-handed.
Yeah,
empty-handed. Now,
but did make good relationships for the future.
Well, so this is what Laura Whitwell says. Wow. Murtough has also been in Saudi Arabia with Hargreaves, that being, I think it's Matt Hargreaves, to establish connections before the January window that would see United open to offers for Casemiro, Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho, and Anthony Martial. So you see that and you go, right. Okay, that's good. That makes sense because, again, some of those you sort of go, well, Casemiro, Varane, do you really want to get rid of him in January? But if the right offer were to come in, and particularly people like Sancho, Martial, if the right offer could come in and you can make that work, do it. However, this is typical United. Initial feedback from these talks is while that contacts have been established, Saudi club squads are full and greatly restricted on signings due to regulations, leaving some close to United believing this work should have been done earlier this year to take advantage of the boom during the summer.
Basically, like when everyone else did.
They watched everyone else do it, passed them by. They then went however many months late, was it September, October, November, December, sort of 3 or 4 months late, went to Saudi and went, right, we've got some players you can have. And they went, we're full. They went, shit, we should have done that earlier on when they were spending the money. Now, you could argue, I suppose you're right, Flex, that you go, well, for next summer, that's important. But it's just, that sums Man United up. We're 3 or 4 months late on it all, When it comes to initial contacts, there's another part in it that says that part of the problem in Ten Hag's first summer is that sort of the due diligence and talks that you should have with players and agents and representatives. A lot of the time with these football transfers, sometimes there can be the perception that they happen quickly and overnight, but certainly with the big ones, they don't. Like you have to put in the groundwork for like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months at times. So for instance, this is why I say now, you should be having talks about players you're going to sign in the summer now. Do it right now. Say, hey, at the end of the season, you interested in coming? This is what we're looking at, blah, 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 blah. You've got like 5 months, 6 months to figure that out. That's why when we talk about Sofian Amrabat, you got to figure out his future now. Are you going to want to sign him in the summer? Yes or no now? Because if you are, that's taking up a part of your budget and you need to allocate that money. That's the Amrabat money. We can't touch that. And they were sort of saying with Ten Hag coming in because they hadn't really planned on, sacking Solskjaer. And then there was the Ranić interim thing. Ten Hag came in and it was like, right, who do you want, Eric? And they were like, wow, I want Frankie de Jong. Well, we got to start from scratch with Frankie de Jong. And it didn't work out. Spent all summer pursuing him. Then we panic. We go, let's get Casemiro. Oh, we're still doing rubbish in the league. Let's get Anthony. Well, I think didn't we say we were going to cut off at 60 million? Yeah, it's last day of the window. Screw it. Let's do 86 million. You realize if we spend 86 million, we can't buy anyone in January. It will be fine. Come January. Damn, we need a striker. We need a midfielder. We can't afford to get him. And we're in the same situation. This is what's maddening. We are in the same situation this year again. Like we've done it again. We've done it again in the sense of we overspent in the summer, even though we didn't have the facilities or budget to. And then come January, which now would be a good time, maybe to add in some reinforcements, tweak some things, change some things. We can't do anything. We can just do the couple of loans. I guess fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we ain't in as many competitions as we were last year. So there's almost like a rationale for not spending big because you could sort of say, well, do you really need to spend big when you're not in any European competition? If you're not in, the only cup competition left is the FA Cup. You've just got the league and the FA Cup. That's all you need. So you don't need to go big and like spend loads of money in January. But I mean, I would recommend to everyone watching this, whatever, if you can get a free trial, or I think it's like £1 to join the Athletic. It's a well worth reading
Yeah,
article
I'm just scanning
because
through now as you're saying. It's
it's
really
damning.
deep.
It is
Yeah, I
very,
will
very
warn you,
damning.
as Owen says, it's damning. It is. It's not good reading.
No.
Like, it's good reading from a journalistic point of view for Laurie to go and find these things, and it's very enlightening. But you're reading it and you just shake your head. Once again, all those millions have pushed United closer to the line on a regulatory cap set by the Premier League and UEFA, meaning the maximum number of deals possible this January is 2 loans, according to internal communications, which is what we're talking about. Because they're just like Owen said, breaking down the Højlund one. Because it fast forwards, it goes into the last summer we just had, and we committed 200 million to Mount, Onana, Højlund, Bayindir, and Amrabat, despite initially communicating internally that spending would be seriously restricted. Spent 200 million on them.
Yeah, and even talks about John Murtough's rise to become the football director at United as well, talking about how that
he was going to go into Miami,
and also how that him and Nicky Butt had what they're describing as a blazing row, and there was questions within the club how qualified John Murtough and Steve Brown, who he worked with at Everton, were qualified enough to oversee such a major restructuring at a club the size of Old Trafford. So there are people internally within the business, within Old Trafford, within the football club, that are looking at John Murtough and Steve Brown, people that were at Everton previously and had come over and worked their way up, going, is this the right guy to be doing all of this? Like, what's going on? And for people that would be going, well, where would Laurie Whitwell, the Athletic, get this information from? They say very early on they've spoken to a lot of people that have spoken on the condition of anonymity, not to lose their job within Manchester United. So all of this noise is coming internally from within the club. And then I'm sure they probably talked to people that maybe used to be at United, because a lot of people have left as well over the last sort of 4 or 5 years at an executive level, and go, hey, is this true? Yeah. Is the blazing row between Nicky Butt and John Murtough in the canteen at Carrington, was that a thing? This is what I'm saying in this article, saying that the Butt and Murtough had long had disagreements on various issues, but matters erupted when Butt discovered Murtough told a colleague he planned to move him out of his position by the end of the season, but was furious at what he saw as a secret plot. And this is what I was talking about earlier, of the politics involved in football clubs. This is my worry with Ineos and the Glazers, is stuff like this happens. And you've got, Game of Thrones-esque people ascending to positions of control by sabotaging other people, cutting the legs out from other people, arguing in Carrington. We can't even get people within the club, to agree on certain things like, the structure, if people are qualified. How are we meant to do that when it comes to transfers, about people's value as well? It is just...
Well, and there's stuff here about obviously his friction with Sir Alex as well.
Sir Alex,
yeah. And I'm just reading this bit here, talking about when obviously Bellingham came through.
Yeah.
And he says he shook his hand at the time Bellingham was 16, but rather than allow them time to walk, to talk, Bellingham and Sir Alex, Murtough guided the player and his parents out of the room for a tour of the facilities. Ferguson was reportedly incandescent at the perceived slight, and said so to Murtough's face at a later date. Murtough has told people he did not interrupt the meeting, and that as with the full Butt fallout, any tension was the result of a misunderstanding. So again, it says that there were tempestuous scenes involving Murtough and Sir Alex. And that basically Murtough had a different view on the approach of the sales pitch, Then he said, also, it says he declined to comment for this article as well. Those close to John Murtough dispute the severity of the argument with him and Nicky Butt, but acknowledge that tensions arose from what they describe as a misunderstanding over a proposed reorganization of the academy administration, in which Nicky Butt would still have a role. Because remember, when Nicky Butt just went, I'm off. Like, remember at the time.
And people went, that was weird. And he wouldn't really talk about it at the time. No. And again, this is when you get into like weird sort of business jargon involved in all of it. So Nicky Butt would look at it and go, they're forcing me out. They're trying to get rid of me. And then from the sort of, the club point of view, we're restructuring the youth academy. You've got a role to play. You'd be like, oh, come on, what are you doing here? I mean, and this is a wild paragraph too. Whatever the reasons, slow progress on several projects has led some at the club to describe the in tray on Murtough's desk as a, quote, as, quote, the black hole. Several critics describe Murto as reluctant to make decisions, while there have been occasions when staff struggle to pinpoint the accountability on certain calls. And then it goes into even when we signed Ahmad, and then sort of talking
I
about
was
how that
literally just
happened.
reading that bit. What on earth? It says Murto's in a makeshift office in his garage in quarantine. He flew out to Bergamo. It says after 24 minutes of senior football, he joined at Atlanta for a fee, potentially rising. Joined from Atlanta, sorry, for a fee rising to 37 million. And it says that Solskjaer had given his blessing to the signing 40 hours before, having watched some video footage, but was unaware of the significant fee, which rose dramatically from when prospective buyers inquired at Atalanta earlier that year. I mean,
And like you said earlier on, when they're talking about, why John Murto's in this role, and look, it's quite scathing, really, of John Murto, this whole piece, really,
yeah,
when you talk about it. But look, there've been a lot of questions about why he's in that position and his experience, his CV for this position. They sort of say that when he was announced as the first football director in March of 2021, the sort of search for this important position had actually started when Jose was in charge. So by that point, that'd been 3 years since Jose had been in the role, 2021, and it had been linked with several high-profile major European executives. The appointment of Murto and Fletcher at that time as a technical director happened very quickly. And the trigger, according to sources from The Athletic, was the offer to Murto of a role at Inter Miami.
Look at this. And the bit that says here, the hunt for such an important role as the sporting director, which was given to Murto, right, was from when Mourinho was in charge after a process lasting more than 2.5 years with several major European. We were looking. Let's get this right, yeah. We were looking for our first ever football director, yeah, right.
Yeah.
We were looking for it for 2.5 years. Interviewed some of Europeans' top executives, right, and then the appointment came within and just happened suddenly, just like that.
Yeah, and they went, why? Why was that the case? And they went, well, he got an offer from Inter Miami. And no disrespect to Inter Miami, but they ain't Man United. Like, they're not, And if that's your trigger, I don't want to lose John. I mean, to be honest, even if you use that as leverage, if John Murto knocked on whoever's door, Richard Arnold or Edward at the time, went, hey, I got an offer, and so I think I should be the football director. Okay, like, what is the offer? Inter Miami. I'd be like, seriously? That's your leverage. That's the leverage you're going to get. And they caved to it. And this just goes to show, as we're talking about earlier on, why do you talk about the full control? Why is it so important? All that kind of stuff. This is why it's so important, because internally, Manchester United, I mean, some of these stories, again, they're crazy. And I can only stress to read the article, because there are plenty in this article of these sort of just bizarre, crazy stories. And when that's all going on behind the scenes, I suppose then you can't be shocked when you see what you see on the pitch, or you see what you see
We're
in the
not shocked,
transfer
because we've always
market.
said this is what we've always said. When the rivals just say, "Oh, look, you spent all this money and blah 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 blah," we know that. But when we take a deep dive into it, saying, "Look at what we're seeing with how the squad's been assembled and the money that we're paying and the players we can't get rid of," it is only going to be indicative of what's happening behind the scenes. And this really, from Laurie Whitwell, I'm going to message him and say, "Listen, top stuff."
Yeah.
Because it literally just contextualizes it and puts it in black and white, where you can literally read and go one to the other, to the other, to the other. And even though you kind of knew it, I'm looking at it going, yeah, it makes sense, even though it shouldn't happen. It's like,
it's
I
almost
can
it's
see
almost
that
like
practices.
all of those questions that you would have about anything. So for any story, you go, so how did John Murto get in his role? Oh, it's in here. So what happened with that Anthony signing behind the scenes? I see it. So how did the Casemiro thing come about then? It's right here.
Why was Hoyland? What they wanted 84, and then we ended up at what? It's all there.
All
Mason
there.
Mount, it's all there.
What happened with Ahmad? That was a bit of a weird one. Came up there in there.
Jude Bellingham. Well, what? But he came here.
Why didn't we get Jude Bellingham? It's in there. Don't worry about it.
Harry Kane.
What I mean?
I thought we could have got. It's all there. It's all there. I honestly would, even if you just do the subscription for a day and then you cancel it or whatever, it's £1. It's really worth. I know the aggregator accounts are going to put out a lot. They put it here about MUFC, MPB have put a piece out from this saying that about the Dan Ashworth bit. basically saying in 2022, Richard Arnold consulted Sir Alex and David Gill for their opinions on United's poor recruitment. And Sir Alex advised Arnold to scrutinise Murto, basically saying this guy ain't enough. He's not it. And recommended an approach for Dan Ashworth, who's obviously doing really well at Newcastle. It then says Arnold contacted Dan Ashworth to sound him out before he joined Newcastle. But when it became clear the role would have been working under Murto rather than as his superior, Ashworth declined to enter proper talks. So Murto's, again, I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire and slander his name. I'm only going off the facts of what we're seeing in these reports is that, Murto's not got the best reputation.
Well, certainly it would appear that a lot of people internally at the club, if this article is indeed accurate, and as we always say, probably not everything in there is probably 100% totally true. I'm not sure a 100% completely accurate article exists, but there would certainly be elements of that have at least a whiff of honesty involved in all of it, I would think.
Yeah.
And it would appear certainly that people within Manchester United, when a lot of these questions are being asked about certain things, they're all pointing in one direction.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
They are.
Which, everyone just go out.
Exactly. Lil Yo-Yo says, this is how you do journalism. Others could learn with the eyes. It is really, really good journalism from Laurie Whitwell. It definitely is. And big up to Laurie. He's a good guy. Anytime we speak to him and we're around him and we exchange messages and stuff, he's honest. He's on the buck and he does his job properly. You know what I mean? So yeah, big up to Laurie. Also, we are at just under 1,400 watching, 244 likes. Could we, on the way out, we've got one more quick story to skim over. Could we get to 500? I know it's basically double from here, but I believe we can do it. With 1,400 people watching, I think we can get 250 more likes before it's time to leave. But definitely a real in-depth list. I feel like we've done the whole article and we haven't even got anywhere near it.
No, we haven't.
That's how long it is. Like someone says there, Julian Don says there, the dossier. Yeah, it really is. It is like a big dossier. Owen, this Guirassy story, a little bit on what that was and Christian Falk. There wasn't loads on it, but it seemed to be something. Just really quickly.
So Christian Falk's done a piece of Court Offside saying that Serhou Guirassy is now pushing to leave Stuttgart. He's had a decent season thus far, apparently pushing to leave in January. He wants to move to the Premier League. United and Newcastle are the favourites to sign him, according to Christian Falk. I'm going to be honest with you, Flex. I don't think we sign him in January. I know that there was another piece that was written by David Ornstein yesterday. He did a really good article actually from The Athletic. This isn't an Athletic show, by the way.
No.
And where he literally
went most credible recently.
He went through most of the Premier League teams and sort of highlighted their January sort of plans or January targets. And he sort of said, which has been kind of the line that we've been talking, is that United are open to do business in January. Most of it are outgoings. They would look to possibly get a striker in if they could, but as Laurie Whitwell says earlier on, it's going to be a loan unless we had a big sale of a player for for instance, if we sold Sancho 60 million, then they'd be like, right, we'll go get a striker, but that one looks quite unlikely. So they're saying that Guirassy might be an option. I'm going to be honest with you, Flex. Again, I don't think we get him.
No, I don't see how. I know there's a cut price that you could leave for in January and stuff, but again, 2 loans is all we got. Unless that's we can get some form of loan with obligation to buy to spread it out. I just cannot see it happening. He is exciting. I think he's second top scorer in the league after Harry Kane. He's banging them in. I did do a piece with when I was on Sky with Kevin Hatchard, who's a European football expert. He's really good. Him and Tim Vickery are really good. Tim Vickery, South American sort of expert, but
he's a legend in South American football journalism.
Yeah, and it's amazing that he's obviously him being English, but being so acquainted with what's going on over that side of the world. But literally, you ask him about any player, these guys are incredible.
And it's not even like it's not even like because you think South American football, you go about Brazil and Argentina. You'll go Ecuador. You'll know everything.
Peru, this guy's Chile, for Peru.
You know what I mean? He'll know everything. Yeah.
It's brilliant. But Kevin Hatchard is the European sort of expert. He's equivalent to that, and he was speaking very glowingly about Guirassy, about how good he is. And actually, I think back to different windows that there's been when these guys have spoken about players, whether it be like Badia Shields or when Alvarez, when Tim Vickery was talking about Lucas Paquetá before he came to West Ham, and he was
Caicedo a long time ago.
Caicedo a lot before he come to Brighton, and honestly, obviously things can miss, but these guys haven't missed. But yeah, I think Guirassy is a super talent. It seems, says he's a very good player. But yeah, I think he's beyond us right now. I think he's beyond us. Treble Champ says, guys, please tell me football control includes clowns like Murto, please. As in, it includes that there's control over them, you mean, Treble Champ? Is that what you mean? Please tell me football control includes clowns like Murto.
Maybe
please.
doesn't includes.
Maybe doesn't. Yeah, maybe doesn't. Kermit the Froggy says, didn't ever say Murto turns off his phone during the transfer window and criticize him for being crap. I remember the video ever done on YouTube. Probably. I haven't seen that specific quote, but yeah, he's done a lot of stuff on a lot of podcasts. Big up Uncle Pat. I remember when we spoke to him at Atletico, actually, and after the Yeah, he's a really, really passionate guy. Big up to Patrice, Uncle Pat. Guys, smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. It's press conference day, so Owen will have the press conference reaction today.
2
also
o'clock.
straight to 2 p.m. Also straight after this, there is another video where we take a look behind the scenes at the London Stadium ahead of our game against West Ham. So obviously we did the preview in the ground and we took a little look behind the scenes with Anton and myself in the changing rooms. Really good piece, actually. I really enjoyed it. Just getting into some of Anton's, thoughts and feelings about how he used to feel about playing against United and going forward. And we're in the changing room. We went into the what else did we go into? The baseball dressing rooms. Just had a little look. Just had a little look behind the scenes. So that's coming straight after this. You don't need to move. You just stay where you are. You're going to get redirected to that video straight away. We're a couple of hundred off, just under a couple of hundred off the 500 on the way out, because we still have the 1,300 watching, even on the way out, which is brilliant. Can we get to 500 or as close to on the way out? If you haven't hit a like on the video, please smash a like on the way out. And yes, plenty more videos to come. And then again, match day tomorrow, early one as well, 12:30 kickoff. So for the match view, Owen, what we got planned?
Yes, for the match view, going to be the KO match view, remote, myself and Mr. KG, the comedian, going through the game. I'm sure there'll be no disaster at all when it comes to all of that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So yes, KG and myself doing what is quickly becoming a bit of a festive tradition, which is the KO match views over the holidays. So yes, that's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. And as Flex said, you don't even have to go anywhere. Don't even think about turning off the video. Don't even think about going anywhere else. Once this ends, you'll be redirected straight to the crashes of the London Stadium. Very excited.
Oh, just quickly, Jim White says, how's the Aston Villa preview with the TalkSport guy coming up? Question mark. That is locked in. That is locked in. I spoke to Gabby. I gave him a call. I said, you need to come and be held accountable for what you say. And he was laughing. I will say this, guys, he is on the wind up. He does it on purpose. He knows what he's doing. But yes, I called him. I said, get your ass on in now if you think you're going to chat shit and not be held accountable. So yes, I'm going to record that on, because it's a really short turnaround from West Ham to obviously Boxing Day. So Christmas Eve, I think, in the morning, I'm going to do that, and then we'll get it out to you as quickly as possible. And there may be a KG comedian who will also be joining as well. So I'm probably going to go in the middle of that, and let's bring it to Gabby. So yes, I'll bring that to you guys. Yes, hopefully that happens. It's booked in and should happen. So yeah, all good.
Yes, indeed. I thought you were going to wrap it up, Flex.
Oh, yeah, so I will wrap it up. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and sit tight and see our next video behind the scenes at the London Stadium. See you guys in a bit. Peace.